What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. So on today's video, I wanted to give you guys an update for my pec tear injury. Now, this is something that I said I was going to do a little while ago, probably seen throughout the channel that I've talked about an injury, but I've never really spoken about it in enough detail. So in this video, I just want to give the complete journey from the injury, obviously doing the injury, the rehab process, where I'm at today, and just some advice as well. The reason why I wanted to go into a bit of depth on this video is because when I did do this injury, I couldn't really find much information around to be able to know kind of what to do, what to expect. Obviously searching on YouTube, you kind of panic a little bit, trying to find out what the best thing to do is. So I wanted to create a video that hopefully if any of you watching this, maybe you have done this injury, maybe you're in a position like I was when you didn't really know what to do afterwards. Hopefully this video will bring some light on that and give you some direction in terms of how to approach the injury, what to expect with the rehab, whether or whether not to have the surgery, and basically just go from there. So to get started with this, when did I do the injury? Okay, so it was 3 days after Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Chris. The 28th of December was when I was in the gym. It's actually in Cheltenham. So obviously now I live in Dubai, but I was in the UK, obviously visiting family, just moved to Dubai. And I was obviously training push and going a little bit too heavy, it seems. I was working with a coach at the time. The programming was quite strength-based. It was quite low rep. It was heavy weight. And I was just warming up. So the week before I did the injury, I was benching about 140 and it was actually going pretty well. I could feel a bit of a tightness in my chest, but I didn't act on it. I thought it was all right. And then I went to the gym obviously 3 days after Christmas, burn off the Christmas dinner. And it was in the warm-up that I actually did the injury. So I was still 120 kilos on the bar. So it wasn't a lightweight by any means, but it wasn't as maximal as what I was doing the week before. And I knew straight away that I'd done the injury because I kind of know what it would feel like. I've had a lot of people that I've known that have done it as well. My brother tore his pec, not quite as bad as me, but he had the same thing happen to him doing a flat bench press as well. So I knew what I did. I wasn't in a lot of pain when it happened. I didn't have a spot, which made it a lot harder. So when I actually did the injury, it was in the eccentric phase, which is when you come down of the rep, kind of just got the bar back on, just kind of go into that fight or flight mode. Managed to get the bar back on, protected myself. Obviously the plates fell off. They weren't actually attached via a clip, which is kind of a good thing. So I managed to do that. No one really cared in the gym, to be honest. No one really looked around, no one really said anything. I wasn't in any real pain, which is very interesting. Didn't have much pain at all, but I knew what I did. So then I went to the toilet straight away, looked at my chest, my top off, and I could still see a huge bulge. So I knew exactly what I had done. I just didn't know the severity of it by that point. So anyway, then I went home, did the kind of standard, iced it, spoke to my mum, spoke to my brother straight away. They gave me some advice around the topic. And we kind of came to the agreement that it wasn't as serious as we thought. At that point, we didn't think that. Okay, so I didn't look at any going to A&E at that point. See, in the UK, the NHS isn't in the best. So probably would have taken a long time and a long night in A&E to obviously get it looked at. So that's a mistake because I should have, but I didn't do that. And I had a physio appointment the next day, actually looking at my lower body. So I thought, look, that's a great time. We can obviously switch the appointment a little bit. So anyway, we went to the physio. She looked at it. It was obviously at that point, it was bruised a little bit. It was starting to come out. And she didn't think it was that bad. So again, this is just from her kind of judgment. She didn't think it was that bad. She thought it was maybe like a grade 2. She thought it would heal by itself. So anyway, I left it, went back to Dubai, knew I had a bit of an injury. And anyway, didn't really get any better. So try and cut a long story a little bit shorter. Didn't get much better. Saw a PT at the gym, really cool guy, shout out Alex. And he said to me, look, I think you should go and get it looked at. It wasn't really getting much better. There was a clear kind of like disjointment there. So he said, go get it looked at and have a look. So at that point, he then went and had it looked at. My mistake, didn't have insurance policy in place in Dubai at that point, which again has led to bit me a little bit. Then got the ultrasound, didn't get an MRI because that would have been a bit expensive without the insurance in place straight away. And the ultrasound came back and straight away the surgeon said, you need to get that repaired surgically. It's completely come off. You've got a grade 3 tear. So it's interesting because I had no idea, I wasn't in enough pain to know that I'd actually done a complete rupture to my pec. So that was the advice I was given. Then I was in a very difficult predicament without really having any insurance. So I obviously tried to, get insurance to cover me. In Dubai, didn't in the end after going through the procedure because it was a pre-existing condition, which is very difficult. So wasn't ideal because when you do an injury like this, you need to get it repaired quickly, okay? So if you tear your pec, you should try and get it repaired within the first few weeks because you are kind of limiting your chance of making a full recovery, which isn't ideal, right? So by the time I actually got through the whole insurance, got told I couldn't do it, I then had to look for like another route to try and take. Now in that time frame, I still managed to run 2 half marathons, which was a good achievement. I still was training. I actually was training most muscles apart from my chest. So there's a part of me that maybe decided, do I need the surgery? Do I not need the surgery? I had a lot of medical opinions saying that I do need the surgery. There was one guy that I spoke to, a surgeon, that said that maybe you don't need the surgery. So it's kind of difficult, but I think in my head, I knew I wanted it. I'm young, I'm fit, I'm strong. I wanted to get back to full training. So it's important that I took the right procedure to make sure that I was to get it done. So anyway, this was now probably about 3 to 4 months post-surgery. So things were starting to get a little bit stressful now. I was getting a bit anxious. I was worried, for me to have the procedure done in Dubai, it's going to cost about 10 grand, no insurance. Could I afford the treatment to get it done? Yes. Do I want to pay that kind of money towards having the treatment? Would have probably led to a few sleepless nights and you know, a bit of worry. Same in the UK as well. The procedure probably would have cost about 10K too. Could I have got it on the NHS? Questionable. I'm not, you know, a resident in the UK anymore. I've chosen to live in Dubai, and it probably would have taken a further 8-12 weeks. You know, we don't know what that's going to be like. So very difficult position that I kind of was in the end. So what I decided to do was find someone that could potentially do it in another country. Now we live in a world now which you can find people in all corners of the world that can maybe help you out in certain areas. So I had a call with a surgeon in Serbia, didn't want to do it, said it had been too long, he was worried about the risk. And then I met a guy, I didn't meet him face to face just yet, but a medical advisor from Bulgaria who gave me a call. Really nice guy, really recommend, and basically said, look, we've potentially got a surgeon that's looking and happy to do that operation. He's seen your MRI and he's happy for him and his team to take it on. So that was what I decided to do. I decided to go to Bulgaria, to Sofia, and get the operation done in Bulgaria because it was going to be considerably cheaper than getting it done in Dubai. Okay, it was about a third of the price. So don't get me wrong, we're still talking a pretty decent chunk of money, but it was a lot better doing it in Bulgaria rather than obviously paying quite a lot more to get it done in Dubai. And they said, you know, it would have been 10K minimum. I didn't include all the other costs that could have come into it as well. So it would have been expensive. But the doctor or the surgeon, he emailed me and he said, look, you know, I've seen your MRI scan, I've seen you, I've been on your Instagram, I know what you do, I know what you look like. He's like, you have to get that surgery done. It's a complete tear. He said, it's a rupture. He said, if you don't get that done, he said, you're not likely to make it. 70% chance you will not make a full recovery. Plus the muscle's not going to look the way that it did before, quite considerably differently aesthetically. And basically said it's just going to completely take your livelihood away in terms of what you love doing. So it was an absolute no-brainer to go and get the surgery done, which I did. And within about a week, I was in a flight to Sofia and obviously went in there and got the procedure to get it back. Now, the surgery went well, the operation went well, so I was led to believe, but it was a long surgery. It was a serious surgery. It was probably the most serious one I've ever had in my life. It involved them actually taking a tendon graft out of my hamstring. I had to take I think it was about 21 centimeters of tendon graft. And the reason why they had to do that is because if you leave an injury or a pec tear for quite a long time, what will happen is that the muscle and the tendon can retract, okay? So that's why you need to get it repaired straight away. That's then gonna be a primary repair where they can hopefully then recover the tendon and put it back onto the humerus, which is obviously where it attaches. And that wasn't the case for me. You know, it'd been too long, the tendon had just shriveled up and it wasn't possible. So he did say to me before that potentially there was going to be a risk of having to operate on my hamstring, take out tendon graft and put it back into my pec. So I was aware that there was potentially going to be that risk. We didn't know yet. I was happy for him to do it, of course. And that's what they had to do. So, you know, just one of those things. So when I woke up, obviously having had the tendon taken out of my hamstring, put onto my pec, I wasn't in the best of places, of course, as you can imagine, obviously off the back of an anesthetic. The care I had there in Bulgaria was pristine, like really good. I couldn't recommend it enough. Really good private health care. And I would definitely go back if I, well, hopefully not, touch wood, get any more serious injuries like that. So yeah, basically the first kind of few weeks, I guess, post-surgery, very tough. Couldn't walk very well for the first couple of weeks because obviously my hamstring was not in a good place at all. See, the tendon was weak. So that was a massive struggle. Obviously sling for 6 weeks as well. Again, I couldn't really move my arm. So life was tough, okay? Like this is someone that's lived and breathed fitness for all their life, that's got their 10K steps in, that's trained pretty much every single day, ran half marathons, all this kind of stuff, to then do nothing and be able to do absolutely nothing and be going back, obviously living with my mum, which again, like massively helpful, looking after me. I love her very much, but it was a very difficult 6-week period. Being back in the UK and having family around me was really important. After that kind of procedure happened, kind of then got back to a decent-ish level. So then I decided to then go back to Dubai when we had the initial 6-week recovery phase and then just basically get back into it. So from there, it's just been a pretty good recovery. I've had, you know, various amounts of rehab. I've seen some physios. I've done a lot of the rehab work myself, if I'm honest, because obviously I'm pretty clued up with fitness. Not that I'm massively clued up in that area, but you know, I can, once I've been given some guidance, I can kind of just apply things myself and do it consistently to get the results. So a lot of the rehab process I've been doing myself, slowly building back up again, slowly doing kind of more unilateral stuff with my chest. Didn't do a lot of chest for the first kind of 12 weeks, but slowly starting to use a resistance band, which I really would recommend. You know, just getting that muscle worked again. I got full range of motion back very quickly, so I was able to actually kind of move around very well. So that was a really good place to be. As I said, physio-wise as well, saw a great physio in Cheltenham, which really helped me with the initial kind of stages with things. And then it's been a good kind of journey, just slowly getting back into exercise kind of over the last few weeks. I got back to training upper body probably about 6 weeks ago. And again, you know, we're talking limitations, I'm not full blown going back to upper body, but been a pretty good good process in terms of getting back into it. My hamstrings got a lot better, so I'm actually able to run. I hit a sub 21 minute 5K the other day, which isn't my PB, but I was happy with that. It's a good pace. Get back to sub 20 hopefully very soon. So I'm able to run. I'm still a little bit unsure with certain movements. So I actually played tennis with my mum when I was back in the UK, and there's a couple of times where I moved a little bit and my hamstring went. So there's definitely a weakness there. So if you do have a tendon graft taken out your hamstring, like that is a serious trauma. You know, you can't just take that lightly. That is going to take a little bit of time to recover as well. I still don't have any feeling in the front panel of my shin, so it's completely numb, and it's been like that for 5 months. Don't know if that's going to come back anytime soon. Could take a long time with the kind of nerves and stuff that have clearly been damaged. So that's the kind of process that it's been, but I'm kind of quite hopeful. I'm optimistic. I think that I should be able to get back to full training after 6 months. Got another follow-up appointment with my surgeon in about 4 weeks, which would then be 6 months post-surgery. So we're looking pretty promising, but it's not to take away the fact that it's a very, very serious injury. It's been tough. See, there's been a lot of times where it's been very frustrating, obviously not being able to train the way that I was before, but that is just life. We're going to get injured at times. We're going to go through this kind of procedure. So it's important that you make sure you really work through the process as much as possible, you know, see the kind of people that you need to, and just be as serious as you can with this kind of stuff. I'm very optimistic about the recovery process. Done a lot of research. Again, that's what my mind always does. I always want to kind of know or have an idea of what to expect. There was a very good study in 2019 by Mitchell et al., who basically looked at 6 patients who had a pec tear and also had a tendon graft recovery process. And the results after 1 year is that the patients were very satisfied with not only their strength, but also the cosmetic and the way that the actual aestheticness of the chest looked as well, which is something I'm hopeful for, because at the moment, like for me, I still see a little bit of a difference, and I'm going to show you a kind of physique update in a second, but I still see a slight difference. I think is more obvious than maybe it is to the average person that's looking at me, but I'm hoping the full recovery will happen. I'm definitely not back to full strength yet. I'm nowhere near kind of that process, but I am slowly able to start lifting and putting a bit of weight again through my chest, which is important. So what would my advice be if you've potentially gone through this or any kind of injury as such? First one, always take precaution. Okay, even if you don't think it's that serious, which I didn't, it will come back to bite you in the ass. So I would really make sure that you take precaution, go get it looked at by a professional, go get a scan, get an MRI scan. You need to know what has happened, and you just looking at something isn't enough. I had done that right at the start of this, then I probably wouldn't have been in a position where, firstly, I had to drop quite a lot of money on getting the procedure done, quite a lot of stress, potentially would be, you know, way faster through my recovery as well. I would have been able to have a primary repair, which may not make a massive difference, but it meant they would have been able to use the actual tendon itself rather than taking out my hamstring, so there'd been less trauma. So you've got to get these things looked at. It's super important, and even if you think it's not as serious as it is, it's worth a trip to the doctors just to get that reassurance, because if I had that reassurance, I'd be in a much better position than I am now, or can kind of talk about. Second is, don't ego lift. I wouldn't say that I was pushing beyond my means, but I probably wasn't warming up properly. My form probably wasn't as good as it should have been on the barbell bench. Probably say over the last few weeks, I was probably starting to get a little bit ahead of myself when it came to benching. You know what us guys are like, you know, we want to be lifting more, and I was seeing it as a challenge. Maybe that challenge has come back to bite me in the ass. So never ego lift safe. I'm not on steroids. So a lot of surgeons said to me, this happens a lot to people that are on steroids because their muscles effectively grow quicker than their tendons can. That's not what happened to me. I think I just got unlucky. However, be careful with your health, because again, these injuries are more likely potentially if you're enhanced. And my last piece of advice, which maybe is a little bit more controversial, is don't do a barbell bench press. Okay, I'm not saying this for everyone. Obviously, if you're a power lifter or you really enjoy the movement, you connect with it really well, keep doing it. Be careful, but keep doing it. If you're just looking to grow your chest, I wouldn't take the risk with a barbell bench press, and there are a lot better movements that you can do that won't have the risk of you having an injury like I've had. I certainly won't be going back to a barbell bench press again. I don't have a goal of powerlifting. I don't want to be super strong. I just want to look good and perform well. So I'll be moving back to more maybe dumbbell work and a lot of this assisted movements when it comes to activating my chest. So anyway, now I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a physique update to kind of what the current situation is with the pec. So as you can see, this is where they did the surgery. So we've still got a scar here, which is actually starting to fade. So it's actually starting to get a little bit better now. But the aestheticness of the chest, like if I just look like this, you can't really tell. There's still a small gap here. So obviously this is something that potentially over time could start to look a little bit better. Thing is, at the moment is I've not put any real progressive overload on my chest for such a long time. I haven't trained chest now for like 9 months properly. So you can imagine how much muscle wastage there's been in this area. And you might not be able to tell, my chest has still got a good shape to it, but there has been a lot of wastage. So it's really hard to tell what my chest is gonna look like by the time we get to the end of this recovery process. As I said, the study that I looked at was after a whole year, and then they started looking at the cosmetics. They started looking at the way the chest was moving at that point in the strength. So it's still hard for me to tell. I don't know what it's gonna look like. I'm very optimistic that it's gonna get back. Obviously at the moment, you can tell if I kind of tense here that you can definitely see the disjointed movement. But again, this could improve over time. You know, the tendon's probably still not fully recovered yet. And again here, so yeah, that's where we're at the moment, guys. It's still not looking too bad. We're still in shape. We're still moving on. Injuries will happen, you know, setbacks always happen. I believe that every single setback is gonna make you stronger, okay? It's new challenge, new adversity, but as humans, we overcome it, and that's what makes us a stronger person. I've learned a lot from this journey that I can relate to my clients. It's made me a stronger person as well, and I think you have to go through certain traumas, whether that's in life or whether that's just injuries, that will make us a stronger person. So anyway, I hope you found this video useful. If you've got any questions on this injury, if you've done it, or if you just want to pick my brains, drop me a message, Chris_FitLab on Instagram, or equally comment below any questions you've got, and I'll do my best to get back to them. As always, make sure you're liking the video and make sure you subscribe for future videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.